Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Carlo. Good to see you again.
Great. Thanks for being with us. What a privilege. How many times should I say this? It's always a privilege.
You said it enough. It's time to get into Schumann. You know...
Yes, another sure. Let's see what you pull out of the hat. How many times have I said that also?
I don't know. But I have a hat right back here, as a matter of fact. But
oh, you do?
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm not using it. Right. Robert Schumann is probably the most romantic image of a composer in history. Maybe he has a little competition with Chopin. But basically, Schumann was passionately in love with Clara Schumann, another great musician, who was the daughter of his piano teacher, Wieck. And then there was...
poor guy.
Yeah, and then there was the strange... Oh, of course, and Wieck opposed their getting together, so there was so much drama there. And Schumann's hand got ruined, so he couldn't become a pianist. And his parents wanted him to go to law school, and he didn't go to classes, so he left law school to become a musician and a composer. And then he discovered Brahms, and Brahms fell in love with his wife, Clara. It's an amazing story, and of course there's also the story of his mental illness. He was bipolar, they now believe, and everything indicates that. And that he ended his life in an asylum, all alone, after trying to commit suicide, and was forbidden, at the end of his life, forbidden to see anyone he was related to. He couldn't see Clara, he couldn't see his friend Brahms, he couldn't see his children. It was terrible. And of course he had 7 children. Awful. Yeah. It's a very romantic story, but we have to remember that we are romanticizing when we take someone's pain and see it as beautiful and romantic and pleasurable. And very often this is what is the stuff of corny movies, and Schumann has been the subject of several movies, as a matter of fact, mostly unbearable to watch, I think. One of the most difficult to watch, although it's funny if you're willing to just laugh at how bad it is a movie, Song of Love, which has Katharine Hepburn as Clara Schumann, which is kind of amusing, and Paul Henreid, who's a wonderful actor, as Schumann, but not really suited to it. And of course all the fake piano playing and the talking about music in ways that musicians don't do it. But it's because Schumann is so romantic. But what's really important now for this discussion is, can you hear what really makes Schumann romantic in his music, and what's so special about his kind of romanticism? And probably, at least to me, and I know to a lot of musicians, and I want to share this with the audience, one of the most amazing things about Schumann is the rhythm. The rhythm is always romantic. It's rushing to be somewhere. It's out of control with passion and energy. And because of that, it's often dislocated. For example, but I think even more...
Disconcerting.
If you play the opening of Kreisleriana...
Absolutely, and I really articulate it a lot as the score demands. It's so precise.
But the thing about it that we can hear immediately is that the right hand starts and the left hand is behind and off the beat. In fact...
That makes a problem for pedaling. That makes pedaling rather difficult.
But for the listener, it's like it's breathless. The heartbeat is off. It's like somebody running wildly somewhere, and their breathing is off from their running. So it is so passionate. It has both energy and love and fear and all kinds of things mixed together. I mean, if you were to play the opening, and I want to tell everybody that it's not until about 20 bars into it that you finally get...
Yeah,
finally on the beat.
That's the second time.
Yeah, the second time it happens, you feel the beat.
Yeah, that's...
So Carlo, if you start at the beginning and play right up to there...
I skip the repeat now.
Right. So I think somebody can feel that the left hand is behind. It doesn't start on the beat. For example, the beat is right there.
It's the B flat. In fact, it is the B flat. It's really very tricky.
It is. And it's because it's built into the nature of his romantic, dislocated personality. It reminds me of in Hamlet, when Shakespeare has Hamlet say that time is out of joint, comparing time to like a shoulder, that my time is out of joint and we have to fix it. Everything's off and everything's wrong, and somehow he has to fix it.
He has to put an antic disposition.
That's right.
Now, try and translate that, antic disposition. Did Schumann have an antic disposition sometimes?
Well, no, I think he really, really suffered and was passionate.
Really,
and
it was real.
I think it was all real. But, getting back to this opening, aside from the fact that the beats are all delayed, that also means that the harmony frequently is dissonant because the right hand gets to the harmony before the left hand catches up. So, for example,
exactly. I'll play this. I am already on the subdominant, but yes, exactly. It's offset.
Yeah, so if I, as you said, here you are, this chord now resolves, but this has moved ahead, and then this, that really needs this left hand to go here, but by time the left hand gets there, the right hand has moved on, and then it's continually behind, and I'm trying to put them together, but if you put them together, you don't get Schumann. So it is off and really out of joint. Now, another wonderful moment to listen to in this piece, to think about, is how Schumann also relates to Bach. He was obsessed with Bach. So, for example, where it says intermezzo etwas bewegter here.
Yeah.
Do you want to play a little bit of that, please?
Yeah, there is an imitative counterpoint.
Yes, exactly. And if we go, let's go to another spot like that.
And here, unison, suddenly.
Yeah, and,
or rather, octave, parallel octave. Yeah.
And the spot where it says bewegter later.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say it's like, play, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there is also the second time.
And what I want the listeners to think about is how Schumann is taking that kind of intertwining, self-following melody, what's called polyphonic melody from Bach. Here's a little bit of Bach. From the E-flat major French
Absolutely.
suite.
It's two strands. Yeah.
That's so much
So
of where Schumann
I should actually play. I should do something like that, or probably I would get crucified. So I will not attempt it. But you're absolutely right, Bruce. Can I stop you for a minute?
Sure.
Not for a minute, for 5 seconds.
Yes.
Promise. Isn't this coming Schumann's Tristan chord? I mean, everything seems to reach peace, resolve. And listen to this coming. Not even Chopin went this far, I think. It's really absolutely puzzling.
Well, I think that one of the ways to explain to a non-musician very clearly and simply how extraordinary and beautiful some of Schumann's harmonic writing is to look at the very opening of Dichter Liebe, which is a song cycle. I think that it tells you some things that it's very hard in a large piano work to sum it up. But here, in just a few short phrases, you get the essence of Robert Schumann. So it starts like this.
That's another polyphonic melody.
It is. But one of the things, that, if you think about it, I'm going to stop after 2 notes. Now, to our modern ears, that's a mild dissonance, but to start a piece of music in the 19th century with these 2 notes that are completely dissonant and far apart, then that's dissonant, it starts to unfold, and this note finally resolves here, and we don't get the whole chord till there. And then he repeats it. But now we understand where it's coming from. So what Schumann does, and he was the first composer to do anything as complex as this, he starts not only in the middle of a phrase, in the middle of an idea, in the middle of a dissonance that hasn't even resolved yet. Now, why does he do that? It's because he's evoking the feeling of trying to remember something. You know, when you think, oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to remember. I'm just trying to get a hold of it. And so he starts, and it's not clear what it is until just there. And then he does it again, but now we understand where it's coming from. And he does it one more time, and then the voice comes in wunderschönen Monat Mai. And finally, we get a cadence several bars into the piece that clarifies the key. We didn't know what key we were in. We're actually thinking we're in the wrong key. We hear dissonances that we at first don't understand, but by time the voice comes in in the beautiful month of May is the text, we finally understand where we are. That's like at the opening of Kreisleriana, where we can't figure out where the beat is, the keys keep changing, because Schumann starts practically in the middle of an idea, in the middle of a thought. And it's partly because maybe, I think, as a manic-depressive person, his mind, when he was manic, was racing, and racing just like at the beginning of Kreisleriana, just racing forward, and he could start writing right in the middle of a thought. And we're lucky that he had that way of composing, because so much music that he wrote has a unique quality of pulling you into something that is already happening, which was not typical of any composers at the time.
There's a beautiful expression, Latin expression, in medias res, that depicts much literature that starts really in the middle of the unfolding of events. My other question, of course, this makes Schumann rather different from Brahms, which is so compact, looks back and forth. It's like Janus, two-headed Janus looking. But Schumann wrote very interesting advices for young musicians, for young people.
That's true.
One of it being you have to be able to really hear the score that you see, and the other way around, see the score of the music you see. However, one advice I would probably not preach could be misused, and that is when he said, I learned more from reading Jean-Paul Richter. It's never mentioned, as we assume, if we take it for granted. Jean-Paul Richter, the high romantic writer, novelist, and then from exercises of counterpoint.
Well, you know, but it's very telling because, you know, Schumann, I'm glad you mentioned this, because Schumann grew up not being sure at first whether he wanted to be a writer, a novelist, like his father, who was a novelist.
His father was a small publisher, he was
but he also wrote
books.
And he also wrote books. And Schumann did write the beginnings of several novels, and he started, you know, the Davidsbund, a club that was about writing and music, and he was obsessed with also, obviously from Kreisleriana, which is based on the literary works of E.T.A. Hoffmann. He was
But by the way, Bruce, yes. I have bad news. The Kaffeebaum, where, you know, that beautiful place in Leipzig, they still had, I was there, I always went there when I when I would play in Leipzig and dine there, exactly at the table where Schumann and his friends, his favorite dish was stewed beef and fried broccoli, I think. I don't think it's. Am I wrong? Probably people, listeners, viewers can prove. I hope they prove me wrong. I think it's not there anymore. Can you imagine? They have preserved that corner of Kaffeebaum.
Well, I don't know, but certainly it can live in your imagination and your taste buds. But one of the things about to get back to Kreisleriana for a moment.
Sure.
It is based on the writings of E.T.A. Hoffmann, who was also a great critic and the first one to define the idea of classical and romanticism in music, talking about Beethoven. He was himself a fairly good composer whose music sounds a little like Schubert and Beethoven, E.T.A. Hoffmann, that is, and Hoffmann also invented the idea in his own writing of having critics represent his different parts of his mind by having different personas.
Like Mastroianni, like Florestan, and
which is what Schumann,
in Schumann's case, of course.
Schumann invented. Florestan, the outgoing, extroverted, improvising virtuoso, and Eusebius, the calm, introverted, poetic, quiet type, and Mastroianni, who is probably based on his teacher and father of his wife, Wieck. So yes, that's really all part of it. So we know what we have is a literary composer, a passionate composer, a composer whose sense of harmony is complex because of how he allows you to enter into it in the middle of ideas and has a very dissonant surface, that his sense of rhythm is often dislocated because that's romantic. It's like he's out of breath, he's breathless, he's passionate, and the music catches that almost every moment. It's really extraordinary in that way. So I do have some piano puzzlers. I think I might play two.
Oh my God! Okay.
So
we should announce that people that hope they'll be pleased to receive a Schumann CD of mine, although not of Kreisleriana, but of the 3 sonatas that I have recorded. So let's hear what you again pulled out of the other hat. I don't know where it is. I cannot wait. I'm not telling anyone. I don't even know, actually.
No, you don't know what it is, so you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, here's a piano puzzler based on Robert Schumann. And not only can you guess the tune, but if you really know Schumann, if you're a Schumann aficionado, you might actually know which piece by Schumann this is based on.
Wonderful. Well, the tune is rather recognizable. The accompaniment, I recognize the accompaniment. I'm not telling anyone.
Good.
So there's 2 things I have to recognize.
Yes.
It shouldn't be too difficult tomorrow after the concert. Oh, no. I shouldn't have said that.
You know what? That's okay. Carlo, I have another one too. Do you want to hear a short one?
Are you kidding?
Okay, here's another Schumann piano puzzler.
Bruce, let me ask you something.
Sure.
This does not relate to Schumann and to us now. How many? There are the wonderful podcasts of your piano puzzlers. Mm-hmm. One can actually download them from Apple Music or go on the website of Performance Today. And I invite people who have not yet been there to do so. Actually, I think we should also share the link on YouTube. How many piano puzzlers have you composed?
Well, Carlo,
as of yet,
in 2022, which is coming up pretty soon, it will be the 20th anniversary of the show. I will have been writing them for 20 years. I'm in my 19th season of writing piano puzzlers, and so there are over 600, but I don't actually know.
All right. Now, for the benefit of people who study composition theory and want to know the language of past composers, what's your advice? How did you accomplish this? How did you accomplish learning? It's not just analyzing, it's not just playing. What's your trick?
There are two things. But first of all, I'm really glad you asked this. And you don't know about this, but I wrote a new version, a third edition of my book, The Mind's Ear, which is coming out probably in a few months. And there's a whole section on piano puzzlers and how to think about that and how to get yourself into that frame of mind. But it has to do with improvisation that has very specific goals. Improvising in certain keys or modes, dealing with certain textures, certain rhythms, so that you identify the characteristics that you think of when you hear certain composers, and you limit yourself to dealing with those characteristics so that you become fluent. It's not an easy thing to do, but it also is really fun and pleasurable if you love music. It has a lot of listening and a lot of improvisation before you can get yourself to that point. So in the new version of The Mind's Ear, which is coming out in Oxford University Press sometime in the next 6 months, there's an entire section on how to think about piano puzzlers and get yourself into that frame of mind and technical position.
That should be really a school book, a school text. And so it is improvising with a goal and always being in a self-correcting mode, I guess. Trying not just to let go, but...
Well, listening. It's sort of, when you improvise, you have to let yourself go, but you're listening, and you can be critical afterward. It's hard to be critical while you're improvising, but it's a two-step thing. So you allow yourself to kind of flow, and then you step back and you think and criticize. But you don't do them simultaneously, or you might not do anything.
We'll read your book. We'll read your book.
Okay.
This is great. This is extremely, extremely useful.
Well, I am always excited to talk about great composers, and so far all your recitals have been among the greatest composers of piano music there are. So Schumann, of course, is a great discovery for a lot of people. He wrote almost all his piano music in less than 6 years, and most of it concentrated in a short 3-year period. Then he wrote over 100 songs in 1840. He wrote all his symphonies and then his chamber music. He tended, partly because of the manic depressive quality, to have these huge outbursts of creativity where he would just write in one genre incredible amounts of music in a very short space of time. And then, unfortunately, of course, his madness, which is not a term we like to use anymore, but it's a romanticized idea of mental illness, caught up with him, and he decided to put himself into that asylum. And he decided that he needed to go there. And it was a very beautiful place with sympathetic doctors, but they didn't really know what to do. And they made one very bad decision. And that decision, to anyone today, is appalling. But they thought it would be better for his health if he did not see his wife, children, or any friends at all until he was better. But he never got better. So he never saw them. Clara saw him only after he died. In fact, there's one line in a letter he wrote to her from Endenich, which is where he was. Endenich. He wrote, "The doctor has even forbidden me to yearn excessively for you that is, as it's too fatiguing.
Oh, no.
Forbidden to yearn. Now, yearning, of course, you can't control that. And it's the essence of Romanticism. It's the essence of harmony that is tense and dissonant and yearning to resolve. It's the essence of Schumann's music, is yearning. And it's amazing that we have in writing that he was told, like a prescription from a doctor, not to yearn excessively. Well,
That's
I think
ridiculous.
it's an amazing thought, though. It's horrible, but it also is an extraordinary glimpse into that time and to what they thought then, because they were trying to help him. It's amazing. Well,
Thank you so much, Maestro.
It's been a pleasure.
This was amazing. And so let's remember, let's guess the Piano Puzzlers, and we're all eager to see your next book then.
I'll let
Reminds
you know.
what happens here in our brain musically, and not only musically, and now how it can be instrumental, in this case, to reproduce and learn, understand better the languages, how the styles, how composers wrote, following your advice. And, well, what you have done, I mean, it's really these Piano Puzzlers, okay, you do use a rather self-ironic title, Piano Puzzlers, but they're really lessons.
Oh, I agree
really
with you.
Model lessons, they're really lessons,
Thank
each
you.
one of them.
We call them in public radio, we call it subversive education. Because it's fun.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Also, Don Juan by Mozart was supposed to be a comic opera, but got to the point.
Yes, that's right. Well, Carlo, it's been
Thank you so much.
great pleasure, and
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to the recital very much.
Thank you so much.